If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Llegó Black Friday en primavera de Home Depot. ¿En qué estás trabajando? Con 14 días de ofertas en The Home Depot, encuentra muchísimos ahorros en el centro de jardinería, como la compra especial, 5 bolsas de mulch Scott's Earth Grow por solo $10. Crece un césped más sano, evita las malas hierbas y embellece tu jardín con mulch que mantiene su color por hasta 12 meses. Aprovecha hoy los 14 días de ofertas de Black Friday en primavera hasta el 16 de abril en The Home Depot.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is...
Pedo.
Pat, how was your weekend?
My weekend was all right. I had a 40th birthday party to go to, which kind of commonplace at this age, unfortunately.
Sure.
So, yeah. There's more and more of them every day. And so I had that. And then I had my monthly D&D game that I run up at Rock Island Public House in beautiful downtown Blue Island, Illinois. So yeah, you were busting my balls about fucking a dragon on Twitter, and little did you know that
you were fucking dragons?
Well, no, there was no dragons in this week's campaign. There were orcs, however, and there was interspecies romance, of course, which is a hallmark of all my storytelling.
Oh, well,
but it was a good time. You know, we have a good revolving group of people, and like I said, we get to go about once a month. So this was session 3, and yeah, it's fun to get out there and do that. You know,
sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, that's totally fine. I didn't do anything. I've been having a very boring existence lately. It's I don't know. Well, not really. Just dealing with stuff I don't necessarily want to deal with, but you know, that's okay. That's all right. No big deal. So
hey, it can't all be you know, ghost lights and Mothmen and the fucking woods. I mean, you can make fun of me for playing Dungeons and Dragons, but some of the shit that you're into is just as fucking nerdy and abstract. You know.
I guess so. I did actually. So I was doing some laundry, but I don't know, I don't know where this story would fit in otherwise. And I was doing some laundry, and actually some of the things that I was washing are like, odds and ends types of things. You know, sometimes you wash your clothes, sometimes you wash your blankets, sometimes you're washing your odds and ends. And
right.
So, I had noticed that there was a particular shirt in this laundry, and it's not mine. I don't know whose it is. Like, I get it home and I just kind of, God, this is going to make me sound like such a whore, but I just kind of added it to the pile because I do have like various like clothing items that, people have taken off at my home, and I don't know whose they are, and I don't know what to do with them. I just give them to the Goodwill. I mean, what do I do? How do I approach people and be like, hey, I know that we've slept together before. You might have left a clothing item here. Go through this pile and pick out what's yours. I mean,
yeah. Well, first of all, so you at this point, you're at this phase in your bachelorhood where you've collected a lost and found. Okay?
Yes, I have a lost and found.
So you can dedicate a drawer for the lost and found drawer, or a box or something, or whatever container you want to put it in. And that's just the lost and found. And people, if they claim that they've left something behind, they can go look for it. Every 6 months, you empty out the lost and found. You can donate it to AmVets and get a tax receipt or something. What I used to do, and this is what kind of helped me circumvent this, because guys have this problem a lot, actually, where sometimes women will purposely leave things behind as an excuse to come back at a later date, right?
Sure.
So what I used to have people do is I would treat the foyer of my apartment as some of an airlock. So when they were to come over to the apartment, I would have them strip down and put all of their belongings in a drawer that I had set aside in this dresser that was right by my front door. And then that way, when they were done and they were leaving, just go back into your drawer and collect everything out of there and then leave. That way nothing would ever get left behind, because they're not like, oh, purposely leaving an earring in the medicine cabinet or some fucking goofy shit like that people like to do. Because sometimes they leave like evidence behind for the other ones to find.
People do that. Yeah, there's this fucking dude that I was dating.
The gloves.
The gloves. No,
sorry, I don't know if
the earbuds. Yeah, the headphones. Yeah. And I guess I don't know if you know about that guy. Maybe you do. I don't know. But this was, back when Ivy hosted the show. I'm not sure how much we talked about him on the show back then. But anyway, it just turned into this big fiasco. And I don't, it's turned into this inside joke that we have now. But yeah, he left his headphones behind, and, that was his excuse to kind of try to get back in. And it's like, no, but, it's whatever. I mean, yeah, you're right. I got a lost and found now. I don't know. I might keep this one. It's nice. It's a black thermal shirt. So whomever it was, obviously they were here back in the winter. It was under my bed. So if you're missing a black thermal shirt, which is probably most of my friend group, you can pick it up at my house. So there's that. But yeah, so, I did that. That's my exciting story for the week. But hey, sometimes you gotta wash your odds and ends. So.
Right.
Well, that's okay.
Wash your bits and pieces.
You gotta wash your bits and pieces, your odds and ends, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
They need some special care sometimes. So, anyway, so I found this really cool website.
Okay.
Well, hold on. I'm trying to think. Is there anything that I need to plug this week? I don't think so. Is there anything you got to plug this week before I get into the news?
No. Next episode of Wired doesn't drop till next week, so you guys get a break from that.
Check that out then. Yeah, let us know what you think about that show.
I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, I'm gonna check out your. I'm actually really excited about it, and I was kind of pissed that you. Well, I wasn't pissed, but what's the clubhouse thing tomorrow?
Oh, yeah. So, our buddy, actually, as a matter of fact, I'll talk about this for a second. Another plug. You guys know how these things go. My buddy Aaron Dees, just premiered his podcast called Hey Strangeness. And, I listened to it. Embarrassingly, it took me a long time to listen to it. And his second episode just came out yesterday. But the first episode, man, that was good. That was really good. He does it with his wife, Sarah. But yeah, it's called Hey Strangeness. Check it out. I know currently it is on Spotify. He's waiting for it to get distributed, because it is new. But if you guys like this show, you're definitely going to like that show. I don't think that they definitely have a very similar humor to what we do. And I would love to work with them. I know he's going to listen to this. So, Aaron, let's schedule that and get you guys on over here and let's talk weird. But Aaron has also opened up a clubhouse club. And he was going to do his first room in it, which was talking about, your favorite kind of mystery. And I know he's going to talk about the Dyatlov Pass and probably other things.
Yeah, when I first saw that promo before your name was attached to it, I was like, oh, I should take the time to come up with one and pop in on that one, because I like that. It was very good. It was a very broad topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's not necessarily cryptid orientated. It's
40 and right, so it's
right,
it's
exactly
on everything.
Yeah, so I was looking forward to that before I saw your stank all over it, and now it's.
You knew I was going to put my stank all over it,
right? Your snail trail just slathered.
If it's weird, I'm there. Throwing my stank around.
So now I'm like contractually obligated as the co-host of Wednesdays We Talk Weird to pop in tomorrow night and
it's like, come get a whiff of the stank.
Come get it.
That's gross.
Can partake in the funk.
Yeah, right. So, yes, we are still doing that. I know you probably saw that it was rescheduled, which is why you were griping a minute ago. I don't know, maybe not. But we're doing that this Friday, actually.
Oh, it's Friday now. Oh, that's even perfect.
Initially it was Wednesday. We are still doing the Clubhouse room that we do every Wednesday with the Bigfoot Society podcast. Jeremiah Byron's going to host it. He's taking a break because of, health and adulting and, whatever. It doesn't matter. He's allowed to take breaks. The guy works his ass off. But he's gonna, make his debut, and we're kind of, getting the team back together, and talking about weird stuff. But you guys probably will have listened to this episode already by the time that happens. But Friday, Friday evening at 7 p.m. Central Time and 8 p.m. Eastern. So we're doing mysteries, and the cool thing about Clubhouse, I know we talk about it a lot. You guys know about it. I swear to God, they're not a sponsor. They should be though. We'll take your money, but the cool thing about it is that you can join the discussion. It's not, you don't just have to sit back and listen to it. I mean, you can listen to it. And it's fun because it'll run in the background of your other apps and things while you listen to it. So it's like a live podcast.
Right.
And at any point in time you want to join in the discussion and talk about your own favorite mystery, you can. And we would love for you to do that. So
yeah, let me just put this out there. If I'm in the room, it does not mean that I want to talk. If I want to talk, I will raise my hand, because there's been times when like they're like, oh look, Dr. X is here, like come up and say something. And I'm like, no, I don't really want
but you don't have to.
And
I
then
mean,
they'll
you
be
don't have
like,
to
come on.
accept, the invite.
Yeah, well, I don't want to disappoint. But I mean, like in all honesty, like I do. 90% of the time, if I'm in the room listening, I am literally just there listening. And if I want to say something, I'll say something, but I don't. I'm just as comfortable being a member of the audience as I am an entertainer. I'm comfortable on both sides of the stage. Some people, they got to be up there. You know what I mean? Like, I think that goes back to being in a band. Like, when I was in a band, like it's not like I stopped going to see other people's bands play just because I was in a band myself. And some people do that. Some people, once, if their band isn't on the bill, they're not going to it. Right.
Sure.
And I think that's, if you're a legitimate fan of music and local music, why would you stop partaking in local music just because now you're a performer? And it's the same stuff with this. Like, I genuinely love these conversations, and I love this group, and I love being able to kind of listen to these fucking weirdos talk. And I say that with the utmost respect and admiration. But just because I'm there to listen doesn't, you know what I mean? But if I pop in on Friday, chances are I will have something that I want to share, because I was very excited about that topic.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, that is how the rooms are. Nobody's forced to come up. First of all, when you click on it and you invite somebody up, then they have to accept the invitation. So I don't want people to steer clear of it because they're worried about getting called on or anything. But it's a no pressure kind of situation. I Pat, I understand why you probably feel a little bit more pressure than others. They like to listen to you. I don't know. I mean, take that with what you will, but people do like to hear you talk.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Yeah, that's a good call out. That's for sure. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the etiquette of clubhouses that if you want to talk, you raise your hand. Anyway, so that's happening Friday. And probably going forward, I know that, Aaron is just doing a bunch of other rooms. It's the Hey Strangeness Club on Clubhouse, and he does more broad Fortean topics rather than just cryptozoology. And then, of course, we've got the Cryptozoology Club, who was created by, again, Jeremiah Byron over at the Bigfoot Society podcast. So check that one out too. Anyway, so there's that. I don't think I have anything else to plug this week. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. You guys follow me on social media. You'll see it. And, you should follow Pat also on social media, at least on Twitter, and he'll tell you what he's got going on, or at least I'll probably share his shit when I see it. So there's that. But anyway, so as I was saying, I did find this website. It's very cool. It's part of the news. I found it kind of going over the news of the week, and it's the UFO travel calculator.
Okay.
So a team of scientists have gotten together, and they have decided to take different types of UFOs and calculate them to see, again, the travel calculator, how fast they go and things like that. Now, of course, we're talking about speeds that we can't reach. I know one of the biggest types of UFOs people are talking about is the Tic Tac UFO, and that's like the one that the military's filmed and stuff like that. What they have come up with in the calculator, and I'll post the link down below for you guys to go play with it. It's really cool. You can just like hit an auto generate button, and it'll take you to a different type, and it gives you all these specs and analytics on it. But for the sake of the show, the Tic Tac type, it has a span of 44.6 feet across, so that's how big it is. But then the speed It travels at upwards and possibly beyond what we know, 11,800 miles per hour. So what that means, because I know people don't know, I don't know what an airplane travels at. Do you, Pat? I don't know. It's off the top of my head.
Not off the top of my head.
Not off the top of my head, right? I don't know. But for people that don't know, that means that the Tic Tac UFO can travel from London to San Francisco in 27 minutes. Now that's fast. We don't have planes that can travel that fast. So anyway, so what they do is, again, they use science and math, obviously, to calculate how these UFOs allegedly move based off of a couple of things, based off of the videos themselves, based off of, eyewitness encounters. But it's really interesting. So that's another kind of UFO update for you guys. Again, you can follow the link there and go play with it if you want. I don't blame you. But another thing I wanted to talk about is, and it's kind of getting popular again because we talked about it last week, Bigfoot.
Oh, I've heard of that.
You've heard about Bigfoot before?
Yeah.
Wow, I only know a little bit. But big things are happening again. So back in May of 2021, there was a sighting here in Ohio in Ashland County, which is roughly about 50 miles away from the Cuyahoga Nature Reserve. But that general area is a bunch of nothing. So it's a good place for a Bigfoot to live. So there was a sighting in Ashland County, and the Cuyahoga Nature Reserve is where some very famous howls were recorded back in 2016. And I can tell you personally, the organization that I work with, we have over 250 reported Bigfoot sightings in that area. So it's a big hotspot area. And it would make sense. It's a huge reserve. It's got plenty of land, not a bunch of people out there, except for, just people walking in the woods. So it's a good place for it. But there has now been a second sighting specifically in Ashland County, reported sighting, of course.
Does that qualify as a flap?
As my God, yeah. I guess so. I guess I would say that, yeah. But it kind of corroborates with the May, 2021 sighting. But this one happened by a gentleman he's a police officer. So, I don't know if you believe those guys or not. Some people do, some people don't. And he was outside mowing his grass, and, he saw this thing. So, of course, because he's mowing his grass and, Sasquatch knows, he didn't have his phone on him to record it. But it did take him a little bit to kind of decide if what he saw was actually what he saw. He reported as being black, and obviously large. So he had his son put on a big black sweater and go kind of walk out in the distance and see if it looked the same as because maybe it was a person, but no. And I can say there's no people walking around in sweaters in July in Ohio. I know we're not the tropic or anything, but it's been hot here. So,
Right.
But that was interesting. So I guess these sightings are picking up. Now, again, these are just reported sightings. There's plenty of people that don't know who to report or how to report a Bigfoot sighting. And the fact of the matter is that there is no one set person that you need to report to. If you see Sasquatch, my idea would be, most likely you saw it locally. If you saw it locally, then you're going to want to look into your local, Sasquatch research team, whatever it is. The BFRO is a really big, a bigger organization. They're like what MUFON is, the UFOs, which I wouldn't recommend them either, but I don't really recommend the BFRO. However, if you put it out there and you make your contact information available to other researchers, or if you have a favorite researcher, somebody that you follow, independently, reach out to them and tell them your sighting. So who knows? I mean, it could have been seen more than once, but so far it's been seen twice in the last 2 months.
So where is this place in relation to where you're at?
It's probably about 4 hours away. It's pretty far.
Oh,
it's pretty far. I mean, it's like the Ohio boonies. So, I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere. I can tell you that. So it's quite a trek. So it's, but we'll be going out there. We do have plans for an investigation. I have an experiment that I would like to conduct with trail cams out there. So eventually that will be part of the plan. It's just, getting out there to do it, I guess. And, well, not just that, finding the right people. It's an experiment. I can't really talk about it much, but, we will be investigating that area eventually, and maybe we'll see a Bigfoot. Some people think it could be a bear. There are bears out there, but at the same time, I don't know. A bear just kind of dumbly walking around the woods on its hind legs. I don't know. It could be. We'll see.
Yeah.
250 sightings. That's a lot. That's a lot of sightings for one area.
Yeah.
So that's pretty significant. Kind of along the same vein of that, today, actually, less than an hour ago, before we were going to record, somebody brought it to my attention that there are reports of panthers in Huber Heights, Ohio, which Huber Heights is a city. I mean, it's not like it's in the middle of nowhere, and we don't have panthers. I mean, we don't have giant cats like that in Ohio. We do have bobcats, but not like that. And panthers, all panthers are is there is no species of panther. I don't know how many people know that or not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, panthers aren't an actual species. All it is a catch-all term for these big exotic cats that have a lot of, they're black. They have a lot of, melanin in their fur or whatever, and they appear black. So it could be a leopard, it could be a black leopard, it could be a jaguar, but most importantly, it could be a cougar. Now, with cougar sightings in the area, cougars aren't native to Ohio. A lot of people say they're not. And they're not native in the East Coast in general. They're more of a West Coast thing, Western thing. However, I know that in these areas, people do report seeing cougars a lot. So my professional opinion is that we do have them. I think we do. I think we have a very small population, but
Indiana has them.
I don't think you do. Or I don't think they do. I'm pretty sure they don't. They're not native there.
Yeah, well, yeah, they most definitely are. They're the famous the Bruce Springsteen of Indiana, John Cougar Mellencamp.
Oh, mountain lions, yep, says they're rare.
Yeah, okay, my bad.
Rare over there, but they are over there. So why couldn't they come in and out of Ohio? I know that there's like a lot of debate specifically within the New England area because they just insist there are no cougars there. However, they're finding footprints. People are seeing them all the time. So it's weird. But they wonder if it would hurt tourism for them to come out and say, "Hey, we do have them." I'm pretty sure that we saw one that was hit by a car in West Virginia. I'm almost positive that that's what we saw. We were driving one of these times, late at night. And we saw this huge animal, and it was tan. I mean, it was like tan colored. And initially, you think deer, right? You think it's a really big deer, except it looked like the foot of it was like underneath the body, but like it was facing, so the back was facing towards us and the foot was like underneath it, but it was like facing outwards. And what was facing outwards at us was a paw. So deers, I don't know if you know this, but they don't have paws.
They have hoofs.
Yeah. So it couldn't have been a deer, it couldn't have been. So we think it could have been, but we were going so fast and we were, in the car for 4 hours just to get to where we were going. We didn't go back. We probably should have. I don't know why we didn't. Oh, well. But anyway, the bigger Bigfoot news, the bigger Sasquatch, happenings, is that there's been this video that just came out. Did you see this video? You might have.
I did actually, yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. That's the thing. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So, a couple, I don't know if it was a couple or a couple of people were kayaking or canoeing or something down the Crass River in Michigan when they saw what they believed to be a Sasquatch. Initially, only a photograph was released of this thing. And they were trying to figure out how to send the video over to, they sent it over to some guy with the YouTube channel. I'll tell you that. Some guy with the YouTube channel.
One of those jagoffs.
One of those guys. Now, does he do good work? He does. I've only seen his analysis of this video, but he did do a really good job. He's very indifferent. He's not like, oh, it's definitely Bigfoot or, oh, it's definitely not. He's good. He's good. I think he was good, but I'm not familiar with who he is. But they sent it over to him and then, so initially he released the photograph and he was trying to analyze it and figure it out, but you couldn't really tell, of course it's Bigfoot. And then the video came out and it just made it even weirder. What's your initial thoughts on the video, Pat?
I don't know. I mean, it's supposed to be a female again, right? And it's kind of like the same setup as the Patterson Gimlin tape.
Well, sort of, yeah.
It's a female and it's carrying a youngster.
It has a lot of people think it has a baby. Yeah, just
right.
A little, a baby, a small foot. I don't know what. I don't know what they call those, but yeah, it's carrying a little small foot. Yeah, I mean that's allegedly, that's what people are saying, or it's carrying a deer. Some people have said.
Okay.
But they think it's carrying something. Now, I'll tell you what, I haven't personally picked apart this video. Like, I haven't analyzed it. I'll be honest with you, I haven't. Other people will, and that's fine. But just from the naked eye and just looking at it for, on my phone, to me, it just looks like somebody threw on a bunch of carpet square samples and went walking around the woods.
Yeah, it definitely looked disheveled.
It looked weird, didn't it? It's either.
But I don't know what they're supposed to look like, so I don't fucking know. I mean,
whatever it is. So, okay, so what happens is it's walking through the water, right? It comes and I guess it goes into the water. It's walking through the water, and you really only see like the side profile of it. And so, and again, I'll put the links down in the description. Go watch it. Come back if you want. Whatever. But if it's like the side profile, and there's like something on the side. It kind of looks like a big ass titty. Is what I see. I see a big ass titty.
I didn't get that, and I have a pretty good titty radar, but
you got good titty radar. But that's what I mean. But it looks like something. But whatever it is, it's like moving separate from the body, and I think that's what people are saying is allegedly the infant. But to me, it just looks like a carpet square sample. That's not really, that's just kind of draped over the shoulder. That's just kind of hanging on and it's just kind of moving because the body's moving.
Yeah, I think I watched the video while taking a shit. So like on my cell phone. So that's probably not the best like setup to do in-depth
right. I need to
I
need to pull it up on my computer and I haven't done that again. Cause like I said, somebody else will and they'll figure it out. But just my initial reaction, like that's what it looks like. But if it is a titty, I could say that. I was like, one of my friends texted me about it. They're like, "Oh, look, I think that's titties," and I was like, "I know, right?" I was like, "Right." I'm like, "It's probably just the local, forest, hermit with her big saggy titties hanging out. She just, she had to go soak her titties in the water because she's been dragging them around over the sore."
Yeah, I had access to Penthouse and Swank at a very young age, so I never did the whole National Geographic titty thing that some kids do when they're that hard up for pornography. So I can't speak to indigenous tribes and the way breasts are formed outside of Western culture. Like, I don't know, man.
It looks strange. Like even the picture, like when you just see the picture, there's like a spot on the leg where, and I'll tell you this, when you look at something super pixelated like this for a really long time, your mind kind of starts to fill in the blanks.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Fucking come up with anything. I mean, that's why you
and then
porn.
you kind of like, I know me personally, I got to take a break and come back and revisit it again with fresh eyes. But when you first look at the picture on the leg, it looks like there's like this black spot around the thigh, like a strip, and I don't know if it's a shadow. I don't know if it's a separate part. It kind of looks like it could be, some type of belt or something, like a utility belt, like on your, whatever those things are called, on your, like you wear on your leg. It looks weird. And it's like, well, what is that? Why would an animal have like a utility belt on? It'd be weird. But who knows? Could it be whatever it was carrying that's casting a shadow? I don't know. But then, so at first I was like, that's probably, that's probably fake. But then you do see the video. And initially that was my reaction. I heard about the picture, saw the picture, there was no video. And they're like, they're trying to get the video sent over. And I'm like, okay, yeah, bullshit then. There's no video. We'll never know what this thing was. But then the video did come out. And I was like, oh, okay, well, shit. Humbled my ass real quick. But, also, it just made it even weirder because it just looks so unnatural. But then again, if you see
it?
Right,
yeah.
Wouldn't it? Right, that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't it look unnatural?
We don't know. I mean, they might be more human-like than we give them credit for, or maybe they're more bestial and they walk in an unnatural way. Regardless, it doesn't sound like this is the piece of evidence to break the Bigfoot case.
It's not, right. It's too difficult. Now, they did do a good job. I will say that. I mean, they did record it. They did do the best that they could do considering all they had was a cell phone. So people need to stop bitching about, oh, why can't we get good pictures of it? Well, they did. That's exactly what they did. I mean, gosh, it probably is one of the better pieces of video that we have, if it is legit. Just considering, again, they're on the water, they're in the water doing their thing and this thing just comes upon them. They did a good job doing that. Kudos to you guys for recording it. But at the same time, to me, the thing kind of just looks like a puppet. It just moves weird.
How many? Well, then it's also, what if these things are transdimensional or something, and that, the way that they move when it's captured on film, it doesn't translate
It looks oddly,
fluidly, you know what I mean? It looks all choppy and fucking erratic. You know, a thought that just popped in my head right now when you talk about why don't we have good footage of this, or why don't we have good video of this? You know, maybe a lot of people do get good footage and good video of this stuff, you know, 30 seconds before their heads are crushed by rocks. You know what I mean? Or they're picked up and absconded away with by Bigfoot.
You
You
know,
know,
we were
maybe
talking
that's it.
about
Cause like,
that.
cause I'm thinking like, if you're like, I just got back from hiking in the woods, and if I saw something like that, I think I would run first. Especially if I had my children with me. I think we
Yeah,
would try to get the fuck out of the area as soon as possible.
right.
If I did pull out my phone and try to get footage of it, I would be scared as fuck. And I don't even think I would do that. I think I would try to run. I think I
Just
would
get the
try.
hell away. Well,
Yeah,
exactly. You
because
know,
it's not like where you're at. I mean, I don't know exactly, I don't know the geography of where this video was captured, but I'm sure it's not like, you know, and then like up on the other side of the hill there was a fucking Denny's, right? Like you're
well, no,
in the middle of
they
nowhere.
were kayaking down the river.
Yeah, so you're a long way from civilization. You're a long way from help.
Right.
And if that's like, I mean, I didn't make a huge deal out of this, but when I went hiking, I brought my fucking 9mm with me. Like, I didn't have it on my hip. I didn't walk around brandishing it like a, you know, hill jack. But like, I'm not going to go into a national park unarmed.
Yeah,
Are you
no, I don't
kidding
blame
me?
you. You
And
absolutely need to do that. Yeah.
yeah, and honestly, like, I think that if in that situation, my I don't know if I would, you know, fight or flight, but one of the last instincts I would have is to pull out my cell phone and make sure that I capture quality video of it.
Well, right. It's like people seem to forget is that, you know, what you're talking about here is you're talking about you just decided to go kayaking on the river one day, right? You just decided that's what I'm going to do. The last thing in your mind was that, you know what? It's a possibility that I'm going to run into the mythical creature Bigfoot that nobody has ever proven before. So when you do, your brain has to catch up to your ass, you know? First, you have to reason away with what is happening, and it takes a minute. I can tell you that. As somebody who has, you know, I think I saw, I don't know what it was, but I think I saw a Thunderbird type thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't, again, I know in that moment, you're like, wait a minute. And then your brain is stuck going, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. And it is until, you know, finally it catches up. And by the time it does, the moment's passed. It's gone. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how it worked with me. It fucking flew off and it was gone. And that was it. And I don't know. I'll never know exactly what it was. But you know, that's the same thing again with Bigfoot, is that you know that you're seeing something that you're not really supposed to be seeing, or that you've been told doesn't exist or isn't possible. Because, you know, people like me, like, yes, if I'm going to go out on a Bigfoot expedition, I'm going to, you know, plan ahead of time. I'm going to mentally prepare for I might see this thing. However, if I'm just going out into the woods to pick berries, I'm not thinking about I'm going to see Sasquatch. Well, I am, because this is what I do, but regular people are not, you know. So then it comes down to that. So then, yes, then you have to think about, then you've got your fight or flight, right? Now you're being faced with, again, an 8-foot tall primate, right? Oh, far away from civilization, you know? So your first thought is going to be, I need to protect myself. This thing can attack me. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's not going to be, I need to pull my phone out and record this, you know? And then even if you get to that point, even if you do, say you do decide, I'm going to pull my phone out and record this, you got to be quick enough to do it. And then on top of that, you're going to be shaking like a leaf. You're going to be scared to death. So no, you're not going to be able to sit there with your camera holding it all still. There's just so many factors at play for getting good footage of these things. But we were talking about, in Clubhouse, we were having this conversation about, like Dogman, and how a lot of people associate Dogman with being vicious and aggressive. But you know, it's kind of funny because really all the Dogman encounters, you know, these people live to tell about them. They weren't attacked by this thing. You know what I mean? Like they eventually talked about it. So it's like, why do people think that they're vicious? And then we were talking, you know, and Sasquatch too. I mean, there are some stories of Bigfoot being mean and aggressive. But then obviously there's people that don't have that experience because it just, you know, walks around and walks away from them and goes on with its life. But then
Yeah.
again, it's not like Bigfoot's going to come out and be like, hey, you know what? I killed that guy. Like it was me. So we don't really know how many, if these things are aggressive or not, because they could be killing people out in the woods. Who the fuck's going to tell about that? Who's going to live to tell the story? Nobody, obviously. So I don't know. But anyway, but again, I do commend these people for, at least taking the video. If they weren't in on the hoax, whatever it was, because who knows? They could have staged it, right? They could have been in on it and taken this video and said, hey, we're going to share this. Somebody else could have hoaxed it and they didn't know. And they're just innocent people in it. And they were, played a prank on. To them, they thought it was real. Either way, I'm glad that the video's here. So will anything come out of it? No, probably not. But we got it. You can only stabilize it so much. And there will be people that are more tech savvy than I am that will come over this thing and get all the details. That's not me though. So sorry. But I just think it looks like somebody wearing carpet squares. So that's my opinion. Obviously, I don't think that's what happened. I think that if they were on a kayak, again, cameras aren't as good as our eyes anyway. I think that they knew enough that they were seeing a Sasquatch. So obviously, I think they could tell if it was somebody dressed up in carpet squares or whatever. But, so they thought that they were seeing something, whatever it was. But to me, it moves like a puppet. It looks weird. I don't know what it was, but that's my opinion on the recent Bigfoot video. I don't know. Got anything else to add to that one?
No, I do not.
Okay. Well, then I'm switching gears. So congratulations to me. Congratulations to you, Pat, and congratulations to the listeners. This is our 69th episode. Well,
wow.
It's not your 69th episode, but it's mine. So it's
right.
it's the show's 69th episode. We've put out 69 episodes over the course. So last week we talked about the megalodon, but during the talking of the megalodon, we started talking about sounding.
Yes, we did.
And did you do it? Did you get a chance to try it this week or?
No, but I did think about buying one of those kits and then slapping one of our stickers on it and then selling it as the official Weird Wednesday sounding kit. And then I had this idea of like doing that with a bunch of random shit. Like you can get a Weird Wednesday Nintendo Switch. You can get a Weird Wednesday lampshade. Like
that would be great. That'd be pretty
using
sweet.
The stickers to like make our own merch that's really other shit that I found around my house and I'm just putting a sticker on.
Yeah, it's just one of the stickers slapped on and that's it. That's how it's that's a really good idea. I'll do that. But yeah, well, so we were talking about sounding. We did talk about running a poll. I know we didn't run the poll because we just, we had talked about it. And I said, hey, guess what? It's our 69th episode next week. So
yeah, the universe decided for us. We didn't need you assholes to weigh in.
Right. Exactly. So we decided, as you guys can tell from the title, we're going to talk about kinks and kink community and strange kinks and fun kinks and not so strange kinks and whatever. We're just going to talk about it. We're just going to have a little round table discussion about fucking. So and sometimes love fucking. But full disclosure, this is not the episode where we like go in and tear into people about what they are interested in doing. Me personally, I don't care what you're into as long as you're doing it consensually. So as long as you're consenting and whoever else involved is consenting, that's between you and them and the 50 other people in the room or whatever. That's up to you guys. But there are some weird ones. I mean, we talk about sex, and sex is obviously a very important piece to people. We do a lot of things for sex, right? We cultivate entire relationships with people just to continue to have sex with them. And, we do a lot in order to achieve this because as we all know, sex feels good, right? We like it. We like to have it. Now, Ivy and I covered this in an earlier episode. We kind of talked a little bit. Well, initially, that was actually the idea, was kind of more this episode was to talk about kinks, just kinks in general, but it kind of turned more into a discussion about ourselves and kind of preferences and things like that. So if you really want in-depth explanations of some things, or, you just kind of want to, maybe you want more Weird Wednesday, go back and listen to the sex and relationships episode. It was good. It was a good one. It was one of the most listened to episodes for a very long time. So
until what?
I think until, I'm not sure exactly when that, I think until the Cecil Hotel, actually, or maybe it was the QAnon episode.
Oh, nice.
I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, it was one of the top. It's I think it probably is still in the top 5. So you guys probably already heard it, but if you haven't, go listen to it. So anyway, where do we want to start? Do we want to start with this kind of the weirdest kinks we run into, or do we want to start talking about dating? I mean, what do you want to do?
I don't, we had a pre-show meeting about this, and we
We
still don't
did,
know
and
where
we
to
still
start.
sucked.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I think it's good. We got the disclaimer out of the way.
Sure.
I think it's obviously kink is a relative term because what's kinky to one person isn't kinky to another. And anybody that has ever spent any time in the kink community knows that there's always a bigger kinkster around the corner, right? There's
Sure.
always someone that's more intense or more dedicated. It's got kinky punk rock kind of occupy the same mind space where there's some people that have a passing interest in it, and there's the chick that works in an office that rides the train to work every day with Chuck Taylors on and nylons and is listening to Taking Back Sunday on her fucking iPhone, right? And she considers herself into punk rock. And then you can have the guy that works the door at the exit that's got a mohawk and neck tattoos and is basically unemployable, and he thinks that he's all about punk rock. So and their own way, both of those people are right. Okay. And I think it would be unfair to use one person's measuring stick to, measure another person's interest in a subculture or whatever. And I think kinks are kind of the same way. Like there's after 50 Shades, there was a lot of people that wanted to dabble and kind of experiment, got into stuff. And I know that left a bad taste in a lot of other people's mouths because they felt that their it was like it was kind of like a Hot Topic opening, the same way a lot of people like freaked the fuck out because they thought that the punk rock subculture was just being exploited.
Sure.
And they a lot of people on FetLife or whatever kind of lost their shit with 50 Shades. And I'm not going to debate the merits of 50 Shades at all. I mean, some people better minds than my own have written exhaustive articles about the way that their dynamic was set up and how that's not the way that real submissive and dominant relationships should be structured. But whatever.
Sure.
So I think, yeah, there's certain things that everyone's somewhere on the spectrum, and what's kinky to one person is not kinky to another. So it's kind of a relative term. And I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I think I'm definitely more adventurous than most of my friends. But at the same time, I've seen some pretty crazy shit at some play parties, and
yeah, absolutely. Well, there's definitely a difference between a kink and a fetish.
Is there now? I mean, okay, I'm not being argumentative, but like, how would we separate those two?
Well, I don't know. That's a good.
I mean, you used the word definite.
Because I think that kinks are more of a lifestyle.
Okay.
And fetishes are more of a favorite flavor.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So like in a kink, right? You talk about a kink. In kink, you have dynamics. So we'll just use the one that everybody knows about, and that would be doms and subs, right?
BDS, yeah.
So, right, BDSM. So, then it's kind of more of a role. And then people in BDSM, it's not just about, listen, if you like to be tied up during sex and you like to be, blindfolded and spanked, you're not into BDSM. BDSM is a complete lifestyle. Outside of the bedroom, you are still in that role. Now, granted, you have safe words and things like that, but you are still in that role. But it's again, it's a lifestyle. Whereas like a fetish is like, we'll talk about the first thing I think of when I think of the word fetish is foot fetish every time.
Yeah.
I think that's a common one. Those people really, really, really enjoy feet. For whatever reason, that's what they're into. Some people that I know that I'm really good friends with really, really like big titties. And so, it is what it is. So, I mean, that's the difference. However, I think that, what we're going to do is kind of discuss both of those topics here and just kind of throw it all into this kink and
Feet
fetish.
and titties?
Feet. Some people like feet and titties. Yeah.
No, when you said both, we're going to discuss both of those topics.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about feet. Oh, sure, we can talk about feet and titties. But so I think again that's the difference between the two. I would imagine at least as far as my understanding goes. But then again, my understanding of it, because I don't have a particular kink or fetish. I
Do
like.
you feel that those are more of a that's more of a male-centered thing? Like I know that there's female kinksters and female fetishists, but like when you talk about feet fetish, like that's almost got to be exclusively a guy thing, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think it sounds more like a guy thing, but I don't know what the numbers are on it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I would think that women could also have foot fetishes. Why not? I mean, I don't think that that's a problem. But no, I think that, I think men probably are more, I don't know. I don't know anybody with a foot fetish. So you're asking the wrong I don't have a foot fetish either. I don't know anything about it.
I don't. I really don't. And I don't know anyone. One of my buddies claims to, but I don't know how serious he is about it. I think he might say it just because Quentin Tarantino has one and he's trying to compare himself to him. But I don't. I guess there's certain things that like this is the way I look at like a lot of that stuff. There's certain things that I'm not. There's certain things that I'm into, right? And then there's certain things that I'm not into, but I understand. Well, you know what I mean? And then there's certain things that I'm not into and I don't get. And as commonplace as feet are, I don't get it.
No, I'm not. I don't. No.
Not in the way that like I can appreciate like a like a clean foot as opposed to like a gnarly jacked up foot, right? And I can like appreciate like a pedicure, but I would never like ask someone to jerk me off with their feet.
No.
Unless I was like really horny and this person was like, the only way that I will make you fucking come is with my feet. And I'd be like, well, if that's it or nothing, then what the fuck? Let's give it a shot. But I would never like ask for that. You know what I mean? And there's some people where that's all they want to do, or that's all they want to,
Foot play.
Yeah, I had a friend, and I know this is kind of, I don't know if we're going to get into the sex work stuff right away, but I had a friend that met some dude on the internet, and he would pay her to come over and put cigarettes out on his feet.
Okay.
And she had to laugh cruelly while she did it.
Okay.
And she would do this like a couple times a month, and she'd get paid like, I don't know, 100, $200 every time she did. Never tried to fuck her. Never tried to touch her. Just wanted her to smoke cigarettes and then put them out on the soles of his feet while she laughed. And she did this for I don't know how long. But eventually she didn't really want to do it anymore. She started dating some guy, and the guy was like, I don't want you doing that. Or she didn't want to do it because she was dating the guy. And she got one of her friends to do it. And I was better friends with the friend than I was the, patient zero, I guess. And she set up a time where her and the friend went over to meet this guy, and they both smoked cigarettes and put the cigarettes out on his feet. And then after that, she was done. And then the friend took up the mantle and did it for God knows how long. So like, that's something like I don't get.
Oh, yeah, no, is your friend hiring? Because I will,
put cigarettes out on some guys.
Yeah,
well,
and I will laugh about it.
I mean, I probably would too. I was like, I got to come over there. I was at a play party once, and it was at a dungeon, and I was friends with the people that were throwing it. But it was like a way for like the women that worked there during the week. Like they would have clients that came in, and then these clients, like whoever was like would pay a lot of money, like they would like get walked around on a leash that night.
Sure.
Like at this party. And I remember I was there and I was fully dressed, and we could do a whole show telling about the shit that I saw at this thing. But, this was like over a decade ago, so you could still smoke indoors. And, we were smoking cigarettes and stuff. And I was like, where do I ash? And they were like, oh, here, ash in his mouth. And this chick that I was talking to was in this whole get up, like pulled the collar of this guy that was next to her, and he opens up his mouth. and we just were like ashing in his mouth like it was an ashtray.
That's
And I like didn't think twice about it. I was like, well, whatever, dude.
well, right. So, right, when you go to these places and do things like that, this is not my story, but I will share someone else's story that they told me. Is that one time they walked into a bar, and he had to go to the bathroom, and they directed him towards this pool where this guy was in the middle of the pool, and that's where you pissed. Was on this guy in the pool in the middle of this bar. And so the things like that is not, it's not really uncommon, again, for these type of spaces. But again, you're safe and to do whatever it is you want to do, whether you want to be piss on people or pissed on. That's just neither here nor there. Some people have really interesting stuff, and I like to hear this, I guess, for the scientific side of why and what and how exactly it works, but not necessarily partake. I don't personally have, I've got some things that I like more than other things. And, I've said it before on the show, like, I want to have a GIMP. I do. I've never had one. I'd like to have one.
I don't want that kind of responsibility.
I'd like to. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. But I don't know. For me, it sounds good, but like at the same time, I don't want a dom, but I do want a daddy dom. And, but also I want a GIMP. Like, I want both, I want both of those things. And so, that would kind of be one of my ideal dynamics, is where I could have all that plus everything in between. And, that sounds strange, but like the thing is about it, which I've explained, is that like my daddy dom can't be my GIMP. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It just absolutely does not work that way. You cannot, because again, this is a lifestyle. This isn't just the bedroom play, it's something that you would have to live through day in and day out. And so you can't just switch it and be like, oh, okay, this is what it is. Then it kind of breaks the illusion, and that ruins the whole point of the kink to begin with, but yeah, but not everything I'm into. There's one fellow, I don't know if he listens to the show or not, somebody that I do know personally though. And he has a hair fetish. And what I'm not saying that like he likes hairy women or anything like that. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. Specifically, he likes when girls have really long hair, and they talk about needing to have a haircut, and they like their bangs are like too long and like in their face, and like talking about how they need to cut them and swooping them out of their face, but there's no actual sex involved. However, he gets sexually aroused from that.
When you get into like that type of territory where it's like very specific triggers,
yeah,
I feel like that's tied to the more specific you are, the more it's tied to something specific from your past.
I agree. And I've talked to him about it. So like he told me about it one night, because we all used to go to this bar together, and told me about it one night while he was drunk, and then he was very embarrassed and told me about it, the next day. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry I said that. And I'm like, I'm interested. I'd like to know, what is, you just like, you just like girls with long hair. He's like, no, it's deeper than that. It's bigger than that. There's no porn for it. Oddly enough, there really isn't. I'm like, well,
I'm going to make it and I'll sell it to him at a premium fucking price.
Right. I will absolutely make it and sell it to him. But, to the point to where like, I knew that he was into this, like, because I knew he was into this, and because I knew how specific and strange it seemed, I didn't mind going out and letting my hair grow out a little bit longer, just to like keep getting it out of my face and be like, oh God, I need a haircut every once in a while. I didn't mind it, because, it really was harmless to me, but it meant the world to him. And I didn't have to have sex with him. I didn't get anything from it. Just that, I was trying to be a good friend. I don't know. I guess. But, it very interesting. It was a very interesting thing. So, we would talk about it at length. He would tell me that, yeah, there's no porn for it, but there is a small market for it. Of course, again, it's a small group, it's a niche community, but there are people that are into it. It's not just him. And he doesn't really know why or where it came from, or, what happened or how he developed that. But it's fascinating to me when stuff like that is at play, because again, it's not exactly sexual, because it's not. But it made him sexually aroused. So
Did you know what the so you talked about like there's not a they don't make this stuff. Um, a great place if you're someone that wants to like do a deep dive in this, or if you're somebody that has these like I don't want to say off the wall, but like I'd say more unique or involved fetishes, it's clips for sale. And if you go on clips for sale, like it's basically so if you go to like Brazzers or Naughty America or whatever, like those mainstream websites, right? What are you going to see? You're going to see, you're going to see MILF porn, right? You're going to see barely legal, or you're going to see interracial, or you know what I mean. You're going to see
Sure.
basic the run of the mill stuff, the stuff that's kind of like just very common. And if that's what you're into, cool. That's you're going to find it. And you're going to find lots of it, and you're going to find very high quality stuff, and it's going to be relatively cheap. But let's say you're into smoking, or let's say you're into trampling. You know what I mean? Like you really get off on seeing women jump up and down on stuffed animals. Then you're looking at more of a niche market, and you're going to go to stuff for clips for sale. And what's interesting about that is that from a production, from somebody who makes stuff, and granted, I haven't made this stuff, but it's not because I haven't thought about it. You can make a lot of money making really what to your layman would seem as weird shit. And you can charge a decent amount of money for it, and it doesn't even involve nudity. A lot of this stuff. The top, I just pulled up clips for sale on my phone while we were doing the show, and the top clip is a video with no nudity of somebody pretending to swallow. It's a POV video, and the woman is pretending to be a gigantic person in comparison to the person watching the video, which is supposed to be
tiny.
you. Right, and they pretend to eat them. Right. And it's a 10-minute video. It sells for $11, and God knows how many thousands of dollars this person has made. And it's just basically a lot of shots of like her mouth open. But like this is, and I'm not laughing at it because I think that it's stupid, or I think that anyone that's into it is like a degenerate or something. But I mean, that to me is kind of incredibly niche, and it's weird that it kind of falls under the pornography label, even though there's no nudity or anything.
Right.
And actually, it's probably like legally not pornography because it's got artistic
tinies are another one of those very interesting. I mean, they tinies get off on thinking that they're small. They're very small.
Well, and I think that probably has this. It probably has the same genesis as the people that are littles, that kind of like to infantize themselves.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first play parties I went to, I spent half the night by the deli tray with this dude in a onesie, and the guy was like taller than me, and he was in a giant fucking onesie. And for him, I don't think he was there, and I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but I don't think he was there necessarily for any kind of sexual gratification. I think it's more of this is how he felt comfortable as a person,
Right.
and he couldn't do it socially. Right. So this was a way for him to be around a group of people that were accepting and not judgmental. And he got to dress like a giant baby.
Yeah.
And sit there and play with puzzles and shit, And now, granted, 15 feet away from that, a woman was being beat with a telephone book, and, people writing slut on her forehead or whatever, but like all that stuff kind of gets like grouped together. But
right, because it's like the weird in me recognizes the weird in you,
Right. No, I think it is, and I think that like sometimes, and maybe that's where the division between kink and fetish is that maybe one's not necessarily sexual, but it is somewhat I don't want to say deviant because it sounds too negative, but maybe it's deviant behavior. It's askew from the norm,
right?
Okay, to put it like that. And I think that's where some of this stuff, the space that some of this stuff honestly does occupy.
Yeah, I agree. I'd agree with that. I mean, as somebody who, considers myself a type of deviant, but again, I don't really have specifics. Like, some people just have that thing, they got that one thing that they really like sexually. And maybe it's just, maybe it's something as vanilla as, you like that weird thing that he does with his tongue, or, you like, hearing her make those noises, or, whatever. Some people like to dress up as in a onesie and play with puzzles, or, some people like to stick tubes into their urethra, or, whatever
Well,
it is.
there's a physical component to that, and I think with BDSM there's a physical component too, even though there's also a lifestyle. Maybe that's the distinction that we need to make, is that the adult onesie thing, there's nothing.
It's
Maybe there's a
psychological rather than
Yeah, or it's a
physical.
lifestyle decision,
Right.
and maybe there's is a physical component because, oh, the way that the banky feels against my face or some shit, I don't know. But like, I feel like that's a lifestyle choice. That's a psychological thing. And same thing with like when you get to BDSM outside of the bedroom, when it's actually a whole entire, like if you watch the movie Secretary, that's a better if you're interested in like, the sub dom dynamic, look at that movie before you look at 50 Shades with James Spader and Maggie Gyllenhaal. Have you ever seen that?
No, I've never even heard of
It's
that.
check it out. It's real hot, and it's not. I don't know if there's nudity, but it's not very gratuitous.
Right.
It's a guy, and he's a businessman. He's looking for a secretary, and the guy is James Spader, and the chick is Maggie Gyllenhaal, and he just kind of takes over her whole entire life, and they don't fuck. I don't want to spoil the whole movie, but it's not about that. It's about the control that he has over her. To where the scene I always remember is she's having dinner with her family, and he calls her on the phone at home, and she picks it up, and he goes, "What are you having for dinner tonight?" And she's like, "They made like pork chops and mashed potatoes and green bean or and peas." And he goes, "You may have 3 peas," and then
No.
hangs up on her. And she goes back to dinner with her family, sits down, eats
It has
three
3 Ps.
peas, and
Yeah.
then pushes the plate away. And like you're like, whoa, like that's kind of hot.
Well,
But
right, because
once
it is,
again,
it is very much, again, it's a lifestyle thing rather than a. And then there's a difference between a dom sub relationship compared to a master slave, and compared to like DDLG, or the mom son version of it. All those things are different, in their own right. Terminology is extremely important when you're talking about those things. So like learn. I guess here's my thing. If you think that you might be into something like any of this, learn about it, read about it, search these topics up, join the communities on social forums, and
go on
I know you
FetLife.
mentioned FetLife, right? Get on
Yeah,
FetLife. Ask people about these things to kind of see where you might fit in, and then of course another piece of that puzzle is then to try them. You have to try them. You have to have, which can be difficult because you have to have a trusted partner to try these things with. Not just
right.
BDSM, but everything, just everything, whatever it is that you might be into. If you're into haircuts, or whatever, seek somebody out that you can trust with this, to kind of build up and practice on. And it's okay to say, hey, you know what, I think I like this, and then by the end of it decide, I didn't really like it as much as I thought, and then keep going. But the key point here is to try and explore and do. My kink, my weirdness is to do everything and to try everything. I mean, there are some things that I'm outright like, no, I'm not. I don't like that. But I like to try things, and I like to try them with different people, because it might be different with different people, and sometimes it is. Um, and I think that's really important to do. But that's kind of, if I were to pick anything that I had that was weird, that would be it. I like adventurous sex. So and
Well,
that means trying stuff.
yeah, I mean, self-discovery is only really accomplished by exploration. If you don't
Right.
try it, you're not going to know. And like, yeah, obviously some stuff you feel confident enough to kind of, dismiss before you get too much into it.
And
But
well, and there's absolutely, I'll say this too. I mean, we've talked this whole time about kink. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you if you just like vanilla sex. There really isn't.
I mean, that's me for the most part. Like I
Most
know,
people are just out there having vanilla sex, and it's okay.
yeah, I know that kind of seems to go against, I don't want to say my persona, because I'm like, well, fuck it. Yeah. I mean, the way that I represent myself, sometimes it seems like I would not be that. But I mean, this kind of comes from having drank fully from the cup of life. And I realize I'm a relatively simple dude,
Right.
and I'm not looking to control people. I certainly don't want people to control me. I don't like having to do all the work, but at the same time, I'm not looking to just lay back and have someone else, do everything, which I think is where a lot of people get the script flipped when they talk about, sub dom, is that they think that if I'm submissive, I'm just going to lay back and someone's going to do all the work, and
Sure.
I'm going to sit here and enjoy it. That's not really how it goes,
No.
and I'm not looking to do anyone's homework, nor do I expect anyone to do mine for me.
Right.
I believe in an equal partnership in all ways. And, yeah, so I'm not into that. I don't want to have power over people. I'm not trying to give people power over me. I'm not too much of a sadist to where I genuinely like inflicting pain on people. And I think that I understand that there's people that have that. I especially understand people that want to be hurt. That
Sure.
kind of feel like the emotional connection to physical pain and how that's important to them. They need to have that. I know lots of people, not lots of people, but I know more people than I would expect to have known that get intense gratification just from being hurt, and don't necessarily want anything else sexually from a relationship. You know what I mean? They just
Right.
want to spankos or whatever the fuck they call themselves. And I don't mean to be flippant when I say that, but like,
Is that a derogatory term?
no, just whatever the fuck they call themselves. No, I think spankos is not necessarily considered a derogatory term, but it's kind of like one of those things terms that gets used, and people that just legitimately just want to be beat on, and that's the kind of the subspace that they go into when you're getting that kind of punishment inflicted upon you.
Mm-hmm.
It requires disassociation. If we're going to get clinical for a minute here, so and that disassociation is very comforting to some people. Some of them maybe because they're survived some traumatic shit in the past, and it's a coping mechanism that they developed to go through abuse at home or whatever. I'm not trying to make a blanket statement that applies to every single fucking person
Sure.
that's into this shit on the face of the planet Earth. However, that's something that they can recreate with a trusted partner when they're getting beat on. And if I'm a submissive or I'm a masochist and I like to be hurt because it lets me disassociate, and my partner is a sadist who gets off on inflicting pain on others, then that relation, you get two people whose fetishes or kinks or whatever click together like Lego blocks, and you have as off the wall as it may seem to your average person on the street, you have a fairly healthy, well-balanced relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing, and that's why I believe this stuff is important, is because you shouldn't have to play tug of war with your partner to develop that kind of equilibrium.
Right.
They should be into the course, whatever you're into, whatever they're into, should line up relatively well. Now, maybe you don't click together perfectly, but at least there's an understanding, right? And if you have that with your partner, well, then you're 3/4 of the way there already.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
I'd agree. I'd agree with that. I mean, that's, another important, piece to it. I mean, people, don't feel like that you're weird, just because you like something that's, seen as weird, or, that's not, that goes against the grain of the norm of just, regular missionary sex, or, whatever. The thing is that if you're into it and it seems off the wall, there's at least, 1,000 other people on the internet that are into it too. It's true
Right.
though. I mean,
Go online.
at least, what you find out when you start joining up with these groups and these social forums and things like that is that there are a lot of people with a lot of different, flavors. I mean, there's a lot of people with a lot of different interests, and, you're not as strange as you think. You're really not. And there's no reason to not explore that. I mean, you shouldn't be embarrassed by it. Life is too short. That's what somebody told me. Life is too short to be deprived, and it really is. I mean, why would you do that to yourself? You're better than that. You deserve, the minimum. And maybe the minimum is to be, to be spanked until you're bleeding. Who knows? Whatever it is, that's up to you to decide. But no, I definitely explore those things, and it's not a strange thing. And if you have a particularly off the wall kink, contact the show and come on and talk.
We'll make videos for it. No, wait, what are you saying? You're inviting him on as guests? Yeah, that too. But no, I'll create content and cater to.
I mean, for particularly weird stuff, hell yeah, come on the show. Let's talk about it.
Hey man, you want to see someone fucking sit on a green balloon? I'll buy a dozen green balloons. I'll make you we'll make
Pat will sit on all the green balloons for you. You can buy his clips on Clips for Sale.
No, I'll sell them direct to you. I don't need them taking their 10%. Fuck that.
I'm all for that. We talked about different things like smoking fetish, and smoking fetish is another. All it is just enjoying watching people smoke. And I was contacted by somebody through Instagram because I'm a smoker. I know I'm a bad person, but whatever. You guys knew that by now. But I'm a smoker, and I posted a picture of I'm smoking a cigarette in the picture, and they contacted me and offered to buy my cigarettes for me as long as I supplied them pictures of me smoking them. And I was like, oh yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna smoke these cigarettes anyway. I might as well get paid to do it. Right. So so I did for a while, and they did. They discussed. They sent me money for a little bit, and then eventually they just kind of fell off the map. I don't know. It happens. Whatever. But smoking fetish is just another really strange thing. I was kind of talking about. I didn't research it much. It's going to take a little bit of a dark turn. I said I was going to before the episode, but I didn't. But I still want to talk about it. I came across this YouTube video where they were talking about another YouTuber who would post videos on YouTube smoking. And he would smoke a lot. He would sit there and chain smoke, and people would be in the comments and they just eat that shit up. They loved it. And then, eventually the guy ended up getting lung cancer or throat cancer, something terrible, and was going through treatment. And all the while he's still making these videos. And not just that, he's talking about his sickness, he's sitting there on the video and he's coughing up lungs basically. And he's, very sick, but he's still enjoying it because he's also into the smoking fetish. And, and this led all the way up until this guy died. And it was not a negative thing at all, which is, it seems weird. It does. It seems really off the wall, but these people were really into it. And, my cat's over here destroying my house. Anyway, so sometimes you have these really off the wall kind of things. And that's another one that I'll talk about for a minute. Besides smoking fetish is, breeding fetish. And do you know about breeding fetishes?
Go on.
Okay. So I happened across some gay porn one day. And it was gay porn. So it's homosexual, two men. And, the kink was breeding. I mean, the fetish was breeding. So it's all, breed me daddy and this, that, and the other. And all it is a dude coming inside of another dude. And it's strange because they can't breed. That's not how you get pregnant. You can't get pregnant in the butt.
I don't think that's to be taken literally. I think why was that video tagged that way? I think it was because they were having unprotected sex to completion,
right?
And when it's used in the gay context, I think it's kind of done a little tongue in cheek because it uses the same moniker, but it's not supposed to mean you actually think that he's going to be impregnated. I think that's just how they refer to the act.
No. So the people in the comments were, all about that was how it was, the breeding and stuff like that, and so there and then. There's other things that are similar, and that's kind of the idea of it. Is that's the fantasy in their head, is that they are paying special attention to the breeding. Not just that, there's also people that are really into transmitting HIV to each other.
Oh yeah, bug hunters. I've that's been on my radar for a little bit, but go back to the breeding thing. I want to make a joke that anyone that has that fetish doesn't have kids of their own.
Well,
if you did, you would not.
That's a very good point.
Not sexualize that idea of I'm gonna fuck up your life for the next 18 years. Yeah, that little bit of money you got.
Something people say. They'll be like, "Oh, let's make a baby." That's something. They'll say it in a small terms, but some people get really hot and heavy into the idea of it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I understand that. I can appreciate that. You know, my son was kind of on purpose in the heat of the moment. You know what I mean?
A
There was,
product of breeding.
well, clearly, I mean, it was fucking just metastasized. But you know, I guess I get that, and I think that that doesn't even seem like that doesn't even really register to me as a fetish, even though I guess it is. Like now, when you say it, like now that I think about it, yeah. But when in the context of like male on male action, I think that it's just kind of like a tag that's being used. I don't think anyone expects the other one to procreate or is fantasizing about that. I think it's just because that's how that if it was between a straight couple, that's what that act would result in potentially. And it's, even though, you know, there's no woman, there's no ovum, there's no and any of that stuff, they still use the same name, but I don't think that like it's the headspace is in the same place. All right,
Right.
making
Right.
okay, we'll put that over there for a second. Now let's get into bug hunting.
Okay.
Yes, that is insane. Well, it's not insane because
Well, it's
that has a very
dangerous, but
judgmental
I
connotation.
mean,
It is, but it's something that, you know, kind of it it exists, and the fact that now there's being porn made of it, I know that it's a legitimate thing that just existed in that community for I mean, I guess kind of forever. Like there are you know, I have a fucking friend from high school or a personal story that I can tie into this? No, I don't. But I think that if, you know, even a cursory Google search would show that there are, you know, there's people that maybe go out of their way to, you know, catch stuff sometimes. And I know that there was a movie that came out maybe 2 or 3 years ago that was like, I mean, caused a lot of stir when it dropped, and I haven't heard anything about it since. But there was a guy who was making all male productions that were centered around that idea. And there was one video where it was a guy that was like 30 guys that were positive, all jerking off into a mason jar, and then the guy like drank the mason jar at the end, or had put a funnel in his butt and then had it poured into his butt.
right.
Like, yeah, like there's
Yeah.
that's like a whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
And you look at it is because, well, how much of, you know, how strong is the impulse of self-destruction? Let's look at the psychology, like psychologically for a minute,
Okay.
right? Self-destruction is an impulse that a lot of people have, and a lot of people exhibit that impulse in different ways, right? Some people, like when they're upset and they fucking binge eat or something like that, right? Part of it's about the food, but part of it's about the self-destruction of it, right? People that gamble or drink, drinking and drug use is even a better example, right? You know, you feel bad, you want to get obliterated, you want to damage yourself, right? Like people, that's something that comes out of people sometimes. People with self-loathing, or people with depression, or people that are just not in a good space and don't really give a shit if they, you know, have a severe indifference towards living, I guess is the way to phrase it. And I feel like that is just that's another expression of that drive that we have, that some people have, you know?
I think it's weird. Like, I think, you know, so the tie obviously there between, what do you call them? Bug hunters? Is that what they're called?
Well, yeah, because of what's HIV is a virus.
Right. So bug hunters. Okay. I mean,
Virus is a
so there's,
bug. You know, it's also known as a bug. Like you know, like a flu bug or something like that.
sure,
And
sure.
then it's a bug hunter. Yeah,
So there's obviously a tie between those people, the bug hunters, and like the people that like want to die from smoking so much that they get cancer. And like, you know what I mean?
sure.
Like, you know, it's
Yeah,
still like some type of medical, I don't know what the fuck to call it. I
but
mean,
it's
it's
self-destruction. You know what I mean?
self-destruction. I guess you're right. Self-destruction. And I mean, some people, um, you know, do this in different ways and and they're not, again, they're not necessarily sexual. I would say that people who cut and harm themselves physically
Sure.
are also probably along the same lines of stuff like that.
Well, I mean, I think that's a masochistic expression of like, once again, like they say they, they're so numb or they're so depressed that they cut to feel something at all.
Sure,
And then I've
sure.
also heard people say in the past that it's not so much the cutting. First of all, multiple people could do the same thing for different reasons, right?
Right.
So like, if you're someone that maybe was a cutter in high school and you're listening to this and you're like, well, that's not why I did it. Okay, fine. But maybe there's a reason that someone else did it.
Right.
Some people say that it's not as much about the cutting as it is about the healing. And that by watching, like the dog just knocked over the fucking water bowl again.
Are you serious?
Yes, and there was like no water left in it, and it still managed to fucking knock into it. So here's a weird thing that I used to do, and when I was younger, and I don't know if you would call this a fetish or not, but you know how like I had like when I was in grammar school, we had like those desks that would have like the little indentation. You would put your books inside the desk. It didn't like open up and you put the stuff in. It was like open. It was like a rectangle, and the face was open, so you would put your books like kind of in it underneath, and then you would write on top of the desk, right? Well, there would be an oval shaped indentation at the front of the inner part of the desk, and that's like where you would kind of put some pens or pencils so that they wouldn't roll around. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I would like to fill that up with glue, Elmer's glue, and then watch it dry and then pick at it. Right.
Okay. All right.
And this is,
okay. It was satisfying.
I would do this every day in school. As I get into school that day, and I would pour some glue in my desk, and I would just kind of chill out. And then by lunchtime, I check on it, all right, whatever. And then in the afternoon, like it would be dry, and then I would like scrape it up.
Okay.
Don't know why, but this is something that I did
Well,
when I was younger.
it's. I mean, it's satisfactory. I mean, talking about. Gosh, see, this is where things kind of get strange. But like, talking about things, there are videos. Like on YouTube, you can go search up, and it'll be like a compilation of different things that are satisfying, and it's like pulling off like the film from like a big TV, or little things that kind of it's like you don't just feel it, like you feel it like in your soul. It feels great. Do you ever like you ever like clean out your ears like with the actual? You're not supposed to use Q-tips to clean out your ears. You're supposed to use these like scoopers, and like you scoop it out and you kind of scratch like the inside of your ear. That shit is amazing. Let me tell you what, it's.
No, I've never done that.
No, it feels wonderful. And, and it's very satisfying. But again, it's more so than just like, it's more than like the happiness that you get from other everyday little things. It's kind of a little bit something extra. It's just that when you start mixing this into sex, they're like, oh, I'm going to enjoy this little thing, but also I'm going to have sex while I do it or whatever. I mean, I guess, it's kind of the tie, I suppose. It gets, like I said, this is kind of where it gets strange.
Well, I mean, just because I think that there's a difference between sex and titillation, right? Like that ASMR, look at that. And we'll get to that in a second. But like what you're talking about with these YouTube videos or like all that, like that's the ASMR thing. Like it's not necessarily inherently sexual, but it is titillating, it's stimulating, right? And it's stimulating part of your brain, and sometimes people just equate the two, right?
Right.
And going to the glue thing, how I was comparing that to cutters is that so what I was doing with the glue, it was like, I would pour it and then I would watch it harden and then I would take it off, and it was ritual maybe, or it was a process, and I could watch the glue harden, and it gave me a sense of accomplishment because it started out like this and then it turned into this and then I did that with it. I don't know. But some people, when they talk about cutting, it's not so much that they like the act of cutting, it's the act of watching themselves heal.
Sure. Okay.
And the fact that like they do that and then boom, and then but now they have this wound that they have to tend to, and then it heals over time, and then it scars, and the scar is a lasting like memory of the process or something. I don't know. I mean, obviously it's not healthy behavior. So if you're listening to this and scratching your head saying, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, it's not supposed to. Like it's supposed to sound a little off because it's the act of physically harming yourself or whatever. Like, yeah, that goes against our programming. But Yeah, we'll put that over there with the cutting stuff. We'll
Yeah,
move past that.
sure.
ASMR, like let's fucking toe dip into that real quick.
Go ahead. I'm not into it. I don't understand the appeal.
I
Um,
do. There's okay, did you want to say something else?
no, just I mean that's it. I mean I don't get it. I you know I've tried, but like I don't. It's just people talking quietly. I don't have the patience enough to sit there for that.
It's not so I that's something that I found on Midnights probably about 5 to 7 years ago, where I just basically watched all of YouTube. I worked 2 midnight shifts a week for like 7 years, and in those 2 years I watched every tsunami video, listened to every coast to coast program, watched every ASMR video on the internet. And that I don't, we kind of like jokingly called it whisper porn, but it's one of those things where I have a hard time fully understanding. I think different people bring different things to it. I generally think there are some people that have a hard time sleeping and watch those videos and they find them relaxing and they kind of pass out. But then I do think that there's people that watch those videos and are kind of, get a little worked up from them, right? And I think that there's content creators too that purposely make those videos and make them in such a way that they get their people a little worked up by them. Because I think one of the nice things about framing it in that context is that you're allowed to operate on YouTube. And as long as there isn't explicit nudity or anything, YouTube ain't going to take you down. So you can do this stuff that's kind of titillating and excites these people, and you have a very public forum to do it in, and it's all kind of done with a wink and a nudge, and then, oh yeah, check out my website in the show notes, or, oh, did you like this video? Like, send me an email and let me know what you'd like to see next time.
Sure,
Or like, hey, I do customs, and then of course it's like, okay, well, how much for this shit? So I looking at like the YouTube pay model, which I'm sure every podcaster already knows about, some of these videos make a lot of fucking money because they get like millions of fucking views almost overnight. And that did not escape my notice either. So me and my filmmaking buddies decided that we were going to make some ASMR videos and try to make some cash. And did I ever tell you this story?
No.
Okay. So we made an ASMR video, and we kind of we were talking about doing it for a while. We never got around to doing it. And finally got drunk one night and did it. And we had a chick, and she was playing with a fucking stuffed animal and like doing this like story about this Dave Matthews Band concert. Like, it was totally done as like a joke, right?
Okay.
And we were like, but let's just see what we get, right? And it got a decent amount of views. Not enough to monetize or anything like that. And honestly, when we did it, we didn't have the YouTube channel set up the right way where we had we just kind of did it and then threw it up on YouTube to see what would happen. So that in itself did not necessarily net money, but we did have a lot of people that were reaching out to us individually that wanted to know, like, hey, how much for your Snapchat? Hey, I really like your nails in that video. Would you do a personal video with you rubbing coconut oil on your hands? Hey, how much to see you do that with, do you do smoking video? Like, whatever, right? There was all of these like side revenue streams that were popping up from that, right? From that one video. And it was all people wanting very specific, highly fetishized content. And I was all for making it, but we didn't, because the person that had made the first video was like horrified. Like, I don't think they realized that like people are gonna be jerking off to this, so that was kind of over before it started, unfortunately.
That's interesting. I've never. I mean, I don't know. Well, again, I mean, I guess like I said, I've had some people ask me to do some weird things, and I've done them. But it's innocent to me, like you said, rubbing coconut oil on your hands. Okay, yeah, sure. I'll moisturize and make $50 doing it. Like,
right, you can do it anyway.
It sounds like a fair trade. It doesn't take away anything from me to do those things. So if you guys got something strange that you would like me to do that doesn't include taking my clothes off, I'll do it.
Right.
Send me a DM. But I, I'm only half joking. But
Yeah, because you totally would take your clothes off.
that totally would do. But it is an interesting. I mean, those things are really. I mean, I think ASMR in general is. I think it's really popular on YouTube, not just because of like it has some type of like fetish tied to it. It obviously does.
Oh, it totally does. Yeah,
It totally does. But because people will put that, it's just like kids that watch YouTube. They'll watch these dumbass, stupid videos, and then they just let it autoplay, and then that's how these channels get really big, is because they got hours and hours and hours. I think people do that with ASMR, but they do it like when they're going to bed.
I don't think so. I understand what you're saying about the kids' videos, but like honestly, like my kids watch those videos and they're legitimately watching, those videos. Like they're watching goofy English people play Minecraft. Like I don't get it, but that's not just like auto playing while the iPad's sitting unwatched in a corner somewhere. And the ASMR stuff, like, we should honestly do a whole episode on that. And I could write like a 15-page thesis paper on it, because this is something that I really looked into, not just from a production standpoint, because as a filmmaker, as somebody that's in the past that has tried to make money from filmmaking, what they have one person, right? There's one actor, there's talent, right? It's a fairly easy thing to cast, although casting is arguably the most important. And then they're shooting these things in their fucking bedrooms with webcams and like, the same type of microphone, Yeti mics. I mean, like, it's not even like it's not even requiring that much specialized equipment. They're doing it with the same stuff we are. But, and anything with that low overhead production wise that can yield that much money, it's like you talk about like what's the most successful independent film of all time, right? And you ask people that and they're like, oh, I don't know, is it Clerks, or is it whatever? No, it's that fucking Kirk Cameron religious movie Fireproof.
I don't know.
Because they made the movie for like $15,000 because it was a church movie and everyone just donated their time on it. And the thing made like millions and millions of dollars at the box office. It's like, these ASMR videos are kind of in the same vein where, you're making $30,000 on a video that literally costs you $30 to make.
Right.
Like that profit margin is fucking phenomenal. And like you look at that model and you're like, Jesus Christ, like what do I need a hot chick to whisper some weird shit in a fucking microphone? Like, okay, let's go make this right away. Right. And I mean, I've been and now it's kind of blown up. And I mean, like, I don't even know. There's so many people out there doing it that like, I don't even know if it'd be worth trying to get into, but hey, if you're in Chicago and you want to make whisper porn, hit me up. But yeah, ASMR. Let's stop talking about that though. It's not.
Well, I mean, I think that I think pretty much everything that we have talked about today, we could do a complete offshoot and deep dive into. But that wasn't really the point. I think that the point of it was just to kind of show the different, the wide variety of, kind of what's out there. I mean, we didn't even talk about, furries is another one people know a lot about. We didn't talk about, I talked about discussing the real sex dolls. We didn't talk about those.
Well, whatever. Let's get to it. The furries thing, a lot of people think that didn't exist until I think it was Vice did like an episode on it where they went to one of those conventions. And suddenly people saw that documentary about that one convention and the whole subculture blew up.
Okay, so I don't know anything about that.
I used to date one. I don't know if I told you any of this stuff.
No.
Oh my God.
No idea that you used to date one.
Yes, listen to this. This is a funny story. So I got to be kind of non-specific. This was literally 15 years ago. This was like another lifetime ago. But okay. Let's just say like I was dating somebody that worked at GameStop, even though they didn't work at GameStop, but just for an example, okay? And part of their job at one point became wearing one of those big like cartoon suits to like wave at people outside the store to like come
Sure.
in, right? Even though that's not exactly what it was. And they brought this suit home one day and was like, "Can you believe that they're going to make me wear this suit next Friday?" And I was like, "Well, put it on and see if it fits." And they put this suit on and they started like dancing around in it. And I was like laughing because it was like, let's say it was a Sonic the Hedgehog suit.
Sure.
And I'm laughing because Sonic the Hedgehog is now dancing in my apartment living room. And they would just do this. And I was like, oh, it doesn't, like, it fits good and it looks all right on you and okay. So then Friday after work, they come back and they say, "I had the time of my life. I had so much fun. All the customers went crazy. Everyone loved it. I'm going to do this as much as I possibly can." And I was like, okay. And then I started to like sometimes come home and they would be wearing the Sonic the Hedgehog suit in the apartment. And they started wearing it more and more and like taking pictures in it a lot. And like they got more animated with their gestures and they got really into it and they tried to do the best job possible. And I could see that there was something that was going on with them. There was no yiffing involved. It's not like, we didn't cut holes in the thing, but definitely there was a connection to the person that they became in that suit that was unexpected and kind of caught everyone
Well,
off
I
guard.
mean, sure, they were able to then, create a character, and that's some people create characters via filmmaking. Some people create characters via book writing. Some people put on animal suits and make the character come to life. It's
Sure.
just that's and I know that I'm not going to spend a bunch of time talking talking about furries because I already know people expected us to talk about them. But you know, I know that it's deeper than just donning animal costumes and having sex in them. It's more than that.
There's escapism. Yeah,
Right.
100%.
Right. There's a bunch of there is. And so that's just a whole nother
And
interesting.
there's,
I
and
didn't
I think
realize
there's,
that people thought that they were a myth or something. I don't know. I didn't know
no,
that people didn't
gosh,
know
no.
that it wasn't a thing. For me, just kind of growing up in the time period that I did, it was kind of just always there. Once you start discovering sex in the internet. I mean,
Right.
it kind of always existed, which is interesting. But that's no different than. I mean, it's not that much different than you know I do. I mean, I do cosplays, but I'm just dressing up like people. I'm not really putting on an act or anything to dress up like these people, but I'll just look like them. And then me going and having sex with somebody dressed as Poison Ivy. I mean, it's not. It's pretty much the same thing. Like I would think. I don't know.
Well, it depends on how much of it is tied into the poison ivy. Like, is it one of those things where like, okay, and I just happen to be dressed as poison ivy? Or is it like, look, I'm going to, meet you at a convention and give you $1,500 to dress up like poison ivy? Because and the other thing too about like when you bring up the poison ivy character, that's already kind of like, it's a Batman villain, and I'm sure like, she's already kind of busty and there's, that aspect to it and all that. That's one thing. But when you're, dressing up like a cartoon fox that looks like it's out of a fucking kid's show, that's a whole nother different dynamic to it. And I think that like one of the things we might start to see more of that I don't remember this being as prevalent when I was a kid, you know, 25 years ago, is like kind of like cartoon and like animation uh porn, right?
Okay.
I feel like that's becoming more prevalent now, and it's because the computer technology is caught up to where anyone can kind of make animation stuff in their house, right? Before then, you would need like an animation studio or whatever. It was unheard of to do anything, so how are you going to make a video of Bart Simpson doing whatever to whoever, right? You couldn't do it, right? Now it's relatively easy with computer software, you can do it. And I feel like that, when you start doing that kind of stuff, and the furry stuff maybe is adjacent to that, I'm not saying it makes you like a pedophile or anything, but there's definitely where it straddles this line between like you're doing something not so innocent with innocent building blocks. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because you're using like anamorphic animals.
Okay, sure. I mean, I don't like I don't again, I don't still don't know much about, if you're a furry and you want to come on the show and
Yeah.
you want to talk about it. I mean, because it's not what again, it's not as simple as just I'm going to dress up and we're going to have sex and I'm going to have sex with you as whatever, there's more to it than just, and I think that's kind of the theme, to most of these topics is that there's more to it than just what it is on the surface and what it appears to be. Another weird thing that's really gross, but I'm going to bring it up is cum jars. Do you know about cum jars? I'm sure.
No, please, please, please enlighten me.
Oh God, yeah, I'm sure you're just standing in line. Can't wait to hear about it. Cum jars is when men will take an object and put it into a jar. A really, really, really famous one across the internet is the My Little Pony cum jar. So they took a My Little Pony horse and put it into a jar, and then they come on it, and then they continue to fill that jar until it's full, and then I'm not really sure what they do with it then. But they do that frequently. Sometimes it'll be action figures or just depends, toy cars, whatever it is they want to put
Oh
in their
my
cum jar.
God, that's insane.
And it's a thing though. It's a thing. People like it. People like to see the progress. People like to see things covered in cum. I don't know. I knew one guy who had a thing for taking his figurines, these anime characters and whatnot, and he would come on them and take pictures and send them to me. And I was not interested. But he was. I don't know. It was his thing, And I don't get it, but there's obviously something more to it than just what it appears to be on the surface. Obviously, this does something for these people.
Well, that's, it's funny because when I was thinking about this episode, I was going over like the different stuff to bring up and like the stuff I get and the stuff that I don't get. And for some reason, I thought of tribute videos, and I was like, that's
Yes.
such a male centric idea, because guys are the same goofballs in general that think women want to see dick pics, which no woman ever does. We're gonna
Yeah.
break that fucking myth right here. No one cares,
Right.
And same
Right.
thing with like guys like producing like those videos, like the tribute video stuff. And it's like, do you think anyone sees that and is like, wow, they really do like me? Look at what they jerked off in this picture of me. Like that's romantic or something. Like, no, it's
No,
just
they
gross
don't.
and
I mean,
weird.
because the men pay you to send them. I mean, so it's that's what it's about. You get the tribute videos because they're paying you. I can't say that it would be completely a turn off, I guess. God, please don't start sending me tribute videos, guys.
You just open the.
I will put you on blast. I will tell your mother. I will send it to her.
You should start an Instagram with all the tribute videos you get, and
Oh
that's
my
all it is.
God. You can't do that on Instagram. I'll start a Twitter account for it. But if you want to pay me for me to watch your tribute video to me, like I'll watch it. But again, I'm not saying that it could be a complete turn off. I can understand where it has its place. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, that's just strictly a thing that sex workers do. And it's just something to do where they don't really even have to put in the effort. Hell, they don't even watch them.
Well, no, I've seen those like on tube sites where like someone will upload a video of like, here's me jerking off to a video of,
Someone else.
Diamond Fox or whatever. I don't know why
I've seen that. I've seen that guy that used to come on the dolls. He liked tribute videos. He liked to make them. He's like, I made this porn with so and so, and then he would send me the tribute. It was a tribute video, is what it was. And it's like, oh, I mean, I think it's odd. Okay, that's, but it's kind of like I said, for the most part. I mean, I guess they are on those sites. I don't know. So there is a market for it, but I can tell you that most of the time it's not women.
No, I mean, these are like amateur uploaded, like some dude made an account on X videos and he uploaded a video of him jerking off on some chick in a magazine or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's not,
right.
Yeah, I don't mean it's like a professionally made one. They're
Right,
always amateur.
blowing their load all over their computer screen or whatever.
Right.
And it, gosh, this episode, this is far from the megalodon talk last week, but
we didn't even get to my one that I wanted to talk about.
What do you want to talk about?
Are we there yet? I mean, is that
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So this was something that, so I, back when I was on FET, like years and years and years and years ago, I was going through like the different like, profiles and stuff. And I see this profile that says, I am into a whole list of like crazy kinks and fetishes and stuff. Like, I am into bloodletting, I am into pony play, I am into sounding, I am into suspension, I'm into, you know, all this crazy stuff. You know, however, if you are a Gorean, do not contact me because you people are fucking animals. And I was like, what is that, Gorean? I was like, I've never heard of that before. And this person who's into everything under the sun somehow draws the line at this. So what is Gorean culture? What is this? And do you know what it is? Did we talk about this?
Well, you kind of mentioned it. I don't think you told me what it was though.
Okay. So then I go and I look it up and I find out that Gorean culture, Gorean, Gorean culture is a type of BDSM type relationship that is entirely based on the science fiction books of John Norman, who's a Chicago native. He wrote a series, and he's still writing them. He wrote a series of books called the Gore Saga, or the Gore. What is it? It's got some weird name to it, like some the Gore Saga. We'll just say Gorean Saga. All right, it's 36 books. The most recent one came out of May of this year, which I did not know, so I have to read it. And these books originally started. The first one was published in 1966, Tarnsman of Gore, and and they came out about every year, and they were kind of like pulp science fiction novels. If you've ever seen John Carter of Mars, that's kind of the premise, where there's an Earthman and he's somehow magically transported to this other world that's in our solar system, and he's there to help the natives fight some alien race or some shit, right?
Okay.
And that's how the series starts. And the first, I think, like 5 or 6 books are pretty straightforward, just pulp fiction. You know, every story kind of ends with a cliffhanger or something. And you know what the Gore series was really good for was that the first, and I've only read like maybe the first 12 books, and then I skipped around. I read some of the more recent ones. They would explore a different corner of the planet, and there's like the part of the planet that's kind of like, you know, the Great Plains with Native Americans, and then there's the part of the planet that's a bunch of pirates, and there's a part of the planet that's, you know, like Mexico, and there's a part of the planet that's like Australia, and you know what I mean. And it's all, so he goes to these different lands, but everything is kind of tied back to shit on Earth, you know. And it's your basic science fiction saga. However, as the stories go on, they get more and more like misogynist.
Okay.
And if you kind of think of like a Conan the Barbarian type universe, where you have like humans and then there's like dinosaurs or like giant monsters that are roaming the planet, you know, men are just naturally bigger than women. They have more upper body strength, right? So you have these situations where the planet of Gore is so dangerous that women need men for protection. And because of that basic kind of imbalance of women being submissive to men because men have to kill off predators and kill off other men, it kind of spins out into this whole entire like dynamic where women are basically just sex slaves, and men are very, very dominant and very controlling.
How is that different from like regular BDSM?
Because these people that, well, there's lots of very specifics to, there's lots of specifics to it, right? Like the women are referred to as kajas, and the men act a certain way, and the women are collared, and there's a home stone that the women pay homage to, and they're supposed to sit a certain way in the presence of men. It isn't that much different, except that it's more likely to be, it's more likely to go out of the bedroom and go into an entire lifestyle that is hardcore lived.
Okay, so it's basically, I mean, so it's basically BDSM, but
with sleepovers, like you don't leave.
With a scenario that lasts forever.
Right. But it's also based on a series of science fiction books that these people think is real. So it kind of also has the shades of like, like Lovecraft, how there's some people out there that think that Lovecraft was actually writing about fucking like real shit. Like it's kind of like that. Where there's people that like believe that there's this hardcore philosophy like embedded in these shitty science fiction books that like dictate like the way to live and like this and I've read like I said, I've read about a third of these and they're kind of entertaining. Like they're not, if you look at it as just like pulp science fiction shit, it's like space opera stuff. It's kind of like Star Wars, but to like, I guess to come away from it and say, that's how I'm going to live my life. That's how I'm going to identify. That's how I'm going to treat my partner. All this stuff. Like, I guess if everyone consents to it, no big deal. And no one's accusing the Koreans of like, lassoing people at the mall and like, dragging them off into slavery or anything. But it does get a bad rap because the reason it was mentioned in this profile is because it is very, very male dominance orientated. So when you talk about a dom sub relationship, there's lots of dudes that want to be subs and they want the females to be the dominant, right? Like that exists. And I don't want to say 50-50, but I mean a good percentage of it, right? But that doesn't exist in Korean culture at all. It is 100% male dominated, male at the top of the food chain. The women are completely, they're cared for, right? It's not like you're abused or neglected, although you can be punished, right?
Okay.
But it's very like just males are superior. They have the superior strength. They're stronger. They protect the women, and because of that, they make all the decisions. And a woman, her only concern is how to serve her master, and that's it. And it's a more extreme variation of that, and it's got its roots in science fiction books from the 60s. So when I stumbled upon this, my mind was immediately fucking blown. I was like, this is crazy. At the time, it was one of the craziest fucking things I'd ever come across. And I don't identify as green, but it's definitely something that always caught my interest. And whenever I see stuff about it, and it's one of those things that kind of took off on Second Life. I don't know how familiar with that you are.
No, I don't know anything about Second Life.
Second Life is kind of like, imagine Sims as a MMORPG, right?
Okay.
So like Sims meets World of Warcraft,
okay,
where you're not necessarily fighting and all this stuff, but you can create a person, and it can if it could be a different gender, it could be a different whatever. So you create this person, and you can give them a job, and you can make them look how you want to look and do what they want to do. And a lot of people that want to experiment with these types of lifestyles use Second Life as a way to have a second life and kind of try it out in that context before making it a real world thing. So that's kind of where Korean culture flourished recently, was people kind of doing it all over Second Life. And I mean, if you can Google it, you can see what's out there. Like there's little groups on Twitter and whatever.
Thanks. Okay.
But yeah, that's something that like, you want to talk about like weird kinks and shit. Like that was something that's always been like high on my like, whoa, like that's so interesting. And then, like I said, I hate to keep coming back to it, but the fact that like it originated out of like a comic book, you know what I mean? That people just like,
is it a comic book or is it novels?
Well, it's novels, but it's very comic. I mean, it would be like Hardy Boy, like Nancy Drew meets Star Wars or something. You know what I mean? Like,
okay,
they're not exactly YA novels. They almost are until they get like really kinky. And then and just the shift that goes on in the tone of the stories too are incredible. Like it really just starts as like this pulpy science fiction thing, and then somehow really becomes about the enslavement of women.
How do you think John Norman feels about the fact that this has bred an entire culture of kink?
So he, I believe, has not necessarily distanced himself from it, because I think he wrote a book called Imaginative Sex. That, let's see, when did this thing come out? He was like, yeah, 1974. He was like an English professor, right? He was like one of these intellectual types, and so I think he kind of, just based on the turn that the novels take, he must have capitalized on it. Like, he must have realized at some point that people were responding to this component of his books and just started to amplify that more and more, right? Um, I know that within the past 5 years, they some people got the rights to turn the whole entire like world of gore into a tabletop role playing game, kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, like, you know, a pen and paper desktop game. And he signed off on that, but he didn't have any input on it, or necessarily want to get like involved in it. And supposedly he's still writing the books, although I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a ghostwriter at this point. And that's not me making accusations or trying to slander him in any way. It's just the dude's got to be old as fuck. You know what I mean?
All right. Very
He's 90 at
interesting.
this point. And supposedly he's still writing these books, which is a little, I mean, maybe he is, or maybe he's got a, you know, some protege doing it, you know.
Wow.
The same
Okay.
way like VC Andrews wrote 2 books and then died, and then the estate sold her name to another writer. You ever hear about that?
No.
Do you know who VC Andrews is?
Yeah, she's an author.
Yeah, Flowers in the Attic and all that shit. So yeah, she wrote like the first couple books and then she died. And the books were so successful, the family was like, well, fuck. And this was like in the early 80s when like there was no internet or anything. So the fact that she died wasn't heavily publicized or publicized at all. And they just hired some other writer to keep writing the books underneath VC Andrews. And they still sold like hotcakes until the mid 90s when people realized that she was dead. Someone else had been writing this shit all these years. And, you know, you can't unsell all those books, man.
Well, that's true.
So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing with John Norman. I think it's kind of ridiculous to think this dude's still writing this shit at 90.
So
But
you're telling me about it, and I'm kind of researching it a little bit, and I found this news article about it.
okay.
And the news article basically says that I mean, the headline for it is, a sex slavery cult based on a series of 1960s science fiction novels has been uncovered by police in Darlington. This is from the BBC. So police had raided a home in a local area because they were getting somebody had called and complained saying that their friend, which was a 29-year-old woman, had originally attended an event for these types of people, and now she couldn't leave because she was forced to burn up her passport and things like that. And then they got there, they come to find out that no, she was still there willingly, and
Yeah.
that her complaining to the friend was just part of the play still, like acting like she's being held captive and things like that. And she's not really being held captive. And then it goes on to, it goes on to talk about, concerned parents who have children that kind of run away to get into this thing, and they don't really know what to do because they don't know if the person is actually being held captive or not.
It's got to, like I said, like that was my first, the first time I heard the word Gorean, it was in a highly negative connotation, uh in comparison to some other stuff that was really, that's what I mean, that's why I caught my interest, is because it's got so much hate for it.
Yeah.
And I read enough of those books just to kind of get the lay of the land. I wasn't trying to go down that well. I didn't want to drink the Kool-Aid completely, but I wanted to have a sip. That's just who I am. I'm an adventurer, an explorer by nature. So, I've read Dianetics too. It doesn't make me a fucking Scientologist.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, you can see like how kind of, maybe you don't see, but I found this shit fascinating because it's such an interesting, it's such a weird thing that you don't really see too much of. You don't really see any other kind of proclivity take off like that, or have that kind of backstory to it.
Sure. I mean, it is interesting because it's kind of cult-ish, as
Yeah.
so it kind of borders that. And well, that's well, there's something new for you guys. That was interesting. I'm gonna read the news article a little bit more after we get off of here because I'm interested. But, yeah, that's okay. All right. I guess it is different than regular BDSM. I mean, usually you don't get people involved in your play. I mean, that's kind of an unethical thing to do. Is to get other people involved, and it sounds like this does get other people involved, and that's again unethical. So maybe that's why it's got so much hate.
No, I don't think anybody gets trapped in it. I think that it's more, once again, it goes back to the lifestyle thing. It's more of a all-encompassing lifestyle than a lot of people are used to.
Well, so
You
what
know
I
what I
mean
mean?
is when I say getting other people involved is when you go and consent to being a female sex slave and you're like, yes, I'm going to do that in the real world. Well, in the play world, then you're turning around and telling your friends and family, hey, I'm trapped here and I can't leave and I'm really scared and I'm being tortured and this, that, and the other. Like, that's not okay. Like, you
I
can't do that.
Yeah, I don't understand how that factors into the Korean lifestyle. Is the I would be suspicious at that point if she was really, where was she bullshitting? Was she bullshitting when she cried for help, or was she bullshitting when the cops showed up and she said she was fine?
Well, that's true.
Yeah, that doesn't ring right with me. And there's no. You're right. There shouldn't be any type of, because why would you do that? Why would
Well,
you
if you're
fake?
supposed to be a slave, then, your role is that you don't like being a slave. Like, you're not supposed to enjoy being a
But
slave. So therefore, you're
so
going to talk to the people like it's a bad thing.
Right, but I think these people took a very maybe that was part of her like introduction into the lifestyle, is that she had to be resistant to it at first or something. But there's no part of, like, if you look at, like, because part of the whole Korean, like, if the mythology of the books, right, is that sometimes they will capture women from Earth and bring them to Gore, and those are the most prized possessions because they're very beautiful and, like, soft and, like, pretty. But there's a change that has to happen in them where they accept their role as a Korean woman, whereas women that are born on Gore are kind of born into this patriarchal society that's very misogynist, and they just come to expect this stuff. Whereas the Earth women, when to get brought to Gore like in their mid-20s, it's a fucking culture shock to them.
Right.
And that's the basis of some of the novels. Most of the novels follow one character, Tarl Cabot. He's like the Tarnsman of Gore. But sometimes they'll do individual novels that kind of break off, and will follow like a different character just for a book or something. And one of the themes that John Norman comes back to in several novels is the idea of these captured Earth women that are finally, suddenly awaken, find themselves on Gore, and now they have to go through. I used to be a secretary in a law firm in New York, and now I'm a paga slave in a tavern somewhere, and I'm used for a tarn disc and all this shit, and how they learn to be subservient. And that, I think, is, once again, it's like stories like that has nothing to do with science fiction, dude. Like, you're writing fucking smut. Like, I know what the fuck this
Right.
is. And just the fact that there's an owl bear in the corner that they got to fight at the end of this shit, that doesn't make this fucking fantasy sword and sandal stuff. Like,
Right.
and that's what happens more and more in the later books, and that's why I haven't read the majority of them, because it gets into that, and it's very derivative, and, like, I don't find this stuff titillating. If I wanted to read literotica, I'd go to literotica. This is just shitty fucking, for, like, it gets into, like, the incel territory or something. But apparently not, because these people are actually living this shit out in real life. So that's the only reason why I could see her reaching out to family members being part of, like, the lifestyle, because other than that, it doesn't make sense. Other than that, it's just like you're stirring up a fucking hornet's nest. You know what I mean?
I mean, and I haven't read the entire article, so
Right.
to be honest, I just read it a little bit while we were talking, but but it's the same thing as like why I can't and you can't and we should not and we don't see people walking people on leashes in the middle of Target because it's unethical to do that. The reason why you're walking that person on a leash is to humiliate them. So if you take them out into a space like Target and you are doing that publicly for everybody to see, to put on display, the people around that are judging them cannot consent to your play space at that point. You are subjecting people to your play, right? And without them consenting to it.
Well, I think that is what acceptance of this type of stuff is what people would argue they're trying to push for, because they feel like they should be able to live those lifestyles. Because now we're not talking about acts, right? Like individual acts. We're talking about entire lifestyles. Excuse me. Sorry. Uh, they should be able to live those lifestyles in 24/7. You know what I mean? And if
Well, yeah,
that
but a lot of
aspect of their
people
lifestyle,
in
because you could say the same thing about a gay couple holding hands, right? Because I mean, is that not the equivalent? Is that not the BDSM equivalent of a gay couple just holding hands?
well, no, because they're not getting off to the fact that they're holding hands.
Oh, but I mean, there's some type of stimulation going on there. I
I
mean,
mean,
you'd never.
unless of course the point of it is to get people riled up. Then they go home and they go, "Oh, do you see the way that old couple looked at us? Yeah, breed me, daddy." You know, that's and so I mean, if that's what they're doing at the end of the day, you know, sure. But like the fact of the matter is that, like I said, with the humiliation thing, they are then taking that and then they're, you know, they're going home and they're talking about it and they're, you know, they're still in their space. And there's a very fine line that you walk in this community. I know a lot of people in the kink community agree that you shouldn't be allowed to do that because consent is, that's like the number, that's like kink 101 is consent.
Right, but I think people's people's objection, you know, or the outrage or whatever negative connotation they give to witnessing that, that's something that changes over time.
Well, like I
So
personally don't give a shit. Like if I saw somebody walking somebody in a leash, I'm like, good for you. I'd go over and piss on them, you know, whatever.
I don't, yeah, I mean, I don't, it wouldn't, I think I would obviously register shock because it's not something that any of us are used to seeing,
Sure,
but I don't think it would offend me. And if my kids saw it, I wouldn't be like, how dare you do that in front of my child? I'd just be like, well, I'll explain that to you if you want. Like, I
sure,
don't know. I don't know. I mean, I, I think that's a conversation left for better minds than mine. I'm
sure,
not, you know, I'm not, I
sure.
don't really have a dog in that fight either. I'm not
Right.
easily offended and I'm not part of that community. So I
Same.
don't know,
Yeah,
you know,
that's pretty much. But we are. This is a long episode. I don't want
yeah,
to.
I want to go eat something so we can,
Yeah. Anything else you got to say about kinks and fetishes, and before we cut off?
don't pull out.
Don't tell people not to pull. That's irresponsible. Don't listen to Patty's. That's my advice.
Yeah.
Pat would know about not pulling out, so I don't. So you ended up with 2 kids, right?
Right.
All right, guys. Well, like I said, if you guys have things that you want to share, maybe you're a part of some of these communities, you know, talk to us. Maybe you'd like to come on the show. Maybe you'd like to discuss it in further depth. You know, that would be really cool. I mean, obviously, you know, most of the stuff we talk about is not, you know, a lot of things we talk about, it's kind of sex adjacent, but this is definitely one of the raunchier episodes. So, you know, we'll see how the audience liked it. But, um, you know, I think that studying some of these things in depth would be really cool, especially if you have something particularly strange. Reach out to us and talk to us about it. But until then, we'll see you guys here next Wednesday.